this is one of the favorite segments here, as you guys know, with our millionaires and our millionaires in the making. And we're going to find out what did they do to get there, and what are the ones who are rising fast doing now to get there. So if I could, Eric, could we put the slides on? We'll start introducing. I'd like to introduce first $1 million earner, executive director, regional director, Charlie Baer. Hey, Charlie. Next, I'd like to introduce one of our millionaires in the making, and that would be supervising coordinator. You heard from her yesterday on recruiting. You know why she's in this category, Stacy McKinney. Next, I'd like to introduce another one of our millionaires, in fact, an executive field vice president, which is in excess of $45,000 in a 4-week pay cycle. Please welcome Julie Scholl. And then now I'd like to introduce one of our millionaires in the making. You've seen his wife on stage. This is what I like to call the Stack Group. Could I please have supervising coordinator and business builder Ryan Stack? Now we're moving to another $1 million earner, a executive director with the company, which again is in excess of $25,000 in a 4-week cycle. Also the only 2-time certified trainer of the year in the company. Please welcome up great friend Steve Harris. All right, this is a great introduction. You can hear him already getting shout outs. I'd like to introduce one of Canada's rising stars, supervising coordinator, on his way to great things with the company, Jimmy Woo. Next, this is a name so many people know. A multi-million-dollar earner with the company. She has a great story. She's done so much for the company. Executive Field Vice President Vikki Lee. Now this is great. We were going to introduce one of our millionaires in the making, but from another country. We have coming from Spain, our first senior master coordinator in Spain, he and his wife, but we have Martin Broodbakker coming out with us. Martin? All right. Now, this year we sort of mixed the group up a little bit because really the questions, you're going to find out whether they've been in the business a while or a little bit. A lot of times the answers are very much the same. Steve, I'd like to start with you if I could. And I guess the first question I'd like to ask is, how were you introduced to the business?
I was introduced originally, I got a call from my good friend Bobby Canada, and almost hung up on him. But because of our long-term friendship, I listened. And Bobby and I had been involved in multi-level marketing for years. I would sponsor him in one, he'd sponsor me, so I guess it was his turn to sponsor me in Market America. Unfortunately, I was done with the industry. And we talked a little bit, but basically he knew at that point I wasn't ready. That was the first contact. And then I guess the second contact was actually with my sponsor, Elizabeth Weber, which was a little bit down the road. Bobby sponsored Elizabeth, so they made a deal, and I won the lottery, so Elizabeth got me.
Did she get you right away?
She did not. When she called, I was even more skeptical. I had been involved in a business with her prior to. We didn't make much money. And I thought it was the same old, same old. And I was 10 years in the industry of not making money. I was a little skeptical. But she kept telling me over and over again that it's different, you got to look at it. But I had heard that the last time she had called in another venture. So finally, you know, it took her to make a lot of money for me to really look at this because, again, I thought it was the same old, same old.
How much did she have to make for you to look at it?
When I finally decided to do this business, Elizabeth was making $16,000 a week, and I said, okay, I'm in.
So I guess you might say succeed if you want to get the great people in the business to show them it works.
Yeah, that's
Great.
a lot, yeah. Everyone can be bought. My number was $16,000 a week.
Jimmy, how about you? How were you introduced?
I was introduced by Executive Director Donald Chi, and he showed me the business over coffee. I didn't know him. He just showed me it. I didn't understand anything. The only thing I understood was $561,000 a year, which was a lot more than what I was making. So he said, hey, do you want to go to one of our conventions? And I'm like, yeah, sure. When is it? And actually, they were leaving the next day. So I only had 4 hours to decide if I was going to attend. And you know, I thought about it. I'm like, I need to make a change. So I went with him, and I guess now I'm here.
All right, hold on. I got to go back because I can't always hear when I'm up here. You met with him.
Yeah, I met him through a mutual friend
And
over
then
coffee.
You had coffee.
And then we had coffee, and he's like, we're leaving to Greensboro, North Carolina in 4 hours.
And you went.
And I went.
Wow. You are either coachable or crazy, and either way, I love you, Jimmy Woo. Good job.
Everyone thinks I'm crazy, you know, like to go with a stranger, some guy I never knew, to do something I've never done before, to a place I've never been. I haven't even heard of Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm from Canada, so, you know, and I went, and now I'm here.
All right, great. We're glad you are. Vikki?
Yeah, I was introduced by a friend of mine, a very close friend who's a doctor, realized cannot exchange time for money, so he showed me Market America. It was 6 months old. But that really convinced me is came to North Greensboro that time, 1993, January 15. And I interviewed Dennis Franks for an hour. Then I said, wow, this is really different. With his sincerity really touched me too. And when I saw the basic 5, I said, I've never seen any company has these 5 things together. And with the system, with the company, with the training, and I bought 1,000 worth of product home to test the market. That's how I started Market America.
Wow, that's great. Now, back then, you said company was 6 months old, right, Vikki, when you took a look at it?
It is. It was less than 80 people in the major event.
18 people at the convention.
80. Less than 80.
Wow.
Yes, and the first major event, I expecting like thousands. When I walk in, I said, oh my God, what is this? And they're all laughing at me that time. They were expecting somebody is Asian. I was walking when JR was talking about that.
Oh, wow, that's great. So we've talked to 3 people, and 2 of them said a major event in getting started was what? Getting to a major event. How many of you think you need to make some calls tonight to make sure you get people to the next major event and sell some tickets? Martin, a little bit different circumstance. Martin and his wife were really leading and starting a new country.
It's a very good question, Jim. Basically, we learned about Market America from a person that was briefly in the company. He sort of passed us a CD. We had a look at it. We were in our living room in Madrid. She was 3 months pregnant. My lovely wife, Malolis, is sitting over there. And it made a head scratch. We were looking for an opportunity for a while now. And about a day later, I told her, you got to start packing because on intuition, I bought 2 tickets to go to Miami. We're going to go to some Southeastern conference and check it out. And 3 days later, we're in Florida, and we heard you speak, and we were sold ever since.
Oh, that's great. And what's interesting is I didn't know this of any of these 3 people. I know we talked about you being there. I didn't realize it was 2 days after taking a look. Thank you for coming. That was great. All right, Charlie.
I had Ben Ginder showed up at my house one day and said he had a business. He thought we could make a lot of money. And to me, and I knew Ben from multi-level marketing, He took me to a UBP. The following night, he was at my house, and a few hours later, I filled out the paperwork and came on board. Next morning, I called Ben and said, I don't believe a company would pay 100% retail profit and 100% of the business volume. So I asked him to send my money back. And
Did he?
And he did. He sends everything back to me. And 9 months later, Ben was back at my house, and he was at $6,300 a week. So I knew one of us was wrong. And I came on board at that point.
Oh yeah, I sit and think how much you and Steve would be making if you would have been
Yeah,
smart enough to listen.
let's not think about that.
Ben, is it true you usually showed up at dinner time or not? Always at dinner time to see Charlie. All right.
Well, you should be home at that point.
You should be home. By the way, for those of you in the crowd who are wondering who Charlie's talking about, he's talking about Ben Ginder, who has earned in excess of $80,000 in a 4-week pay cycle with the company, one of the highest paid unfranchised owners we have. Stacy?
I was introduced to the business by Director Susan Thomas. I wasn't looking for a business. I was looking how to get healthy. I found her on Facebook. She was my health coach, and then I fell in love with the products. Been a nurse for 20 years. This is my arm, okay? Lots of pain, OPC, vitamin B, and thermochrome. I fell in love with it, and I wanted to be able to help other people. And then I figured out I could make some money and not have to work 60 hours a week.
Great. And I know we've talked, though, when you were working 60 hours a week, you've now, as you've hit supervising coordinator, been able to cut that down tremendously. What do you work now, in half?
Yep.
And you have a goal to cut that down completely, right?
Yes.
Congratulations. That's great. Julie.
I was introduced to the business through the products. I was actually just a customer, and loved the products, knew they worked, so I called the person that was selling them to me, and I said, hey, will you come over? And so I actually recruited him and said, hey, will you come over and show me how this works? I think I want to do this. And so they showed me the business plan. Wasn't really paying attention because honestly, I wasn't really looking to start a business because I was in college at the time. I was just looking to make some extra money on the products, retail profit. So never underestimate retail to recruit, right? So I started doing the business and went to the first international convention. It just happened to be, things changed for me. So at first I was like, I'm absolutely not interested in doing the business part. Things changed for me because I realized once I graduated, I was not going to make as much money as I thought I was going to. And so I said, hey, will you come back over and show me the business again? Because I wasn't paying attention. So I kind of need to know how this works now. So they came over, showed it to me, and I went to the international convention, the first one ever. There was like 200 people there here in Greensboro, and learned more about how to make a 6-figure income in that one weekend than I did my entire college education. So make sure you come to the next events, come to every event.
Julie, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but when you did finish school, what were you earning in your Market America business?
When I graduated from college, I was making $25,000 a month.
In your Market America business?
In Market America, yes.
I think you picked the right university to stay with. Very good. Ryan?
I don't know how you scrape by on $25,000 a month. It's tough. My financial plan leading up to this was to teach drums, which wasn't a good financial plan. And so I was a student, and then this beautiful woman, Sarah Rose Stack, becomes obsessed with me and won't leave me alone. And
very
so
understandable.
You know, she's beautiful. Loved her since the day I saw her. And very quickly, we realized we were expecting a little one, Jordan. So our need came from, all right, I guess I can't do this drumming thing as a career. And we started looking. I found some things. I started actually looking around it. I remember the day I found out about home-based businesses. I went to, after this news, I went to the ATM, and I was trying to take out $20. And you've done this, and I had $18 in my account. And I said, this is a problem. By the way, next to the ATM was a note of a little advertisement saying, work from home. And it was another MLM. And it was my first exposure to that type of residual income. And I remember looking at the plan, telling the guy he was crazy, but I got obsessed with the fact that you can do something from home. A professor told us about this business. We went down to UBP, and I just couldn't believe it from what I saw before.
And then did you start right away after seeing that?
No, we went through some processes of getting our. I was maybe obnoxiously skeptical because I had $18 in my bank account. I guess that was a lot of credibility. But no, I just wanted to make sure it was going to be worth the time and investment. We found a mentor, and he wouldn't allow us to launch our business. I don't know why. He basically said we weren't qualified. Whatever. So we found someone else to work with, and we started a few months after that.
Great, great. Now, all of you, I mean, everybody looks at you guys and says, I want to be like these people. I want to be successful. I want to be on my way. I want to be $1 million earner. I want to be doing it. But they don't see always what comes with that. Ryan, I want to start back with you. Would you let me know what challenges did you guys have early on building the business?
I'll say first thing and foremost, when we found a mentor, Gary Rogers, by the way, love the guy.
Great mentor.
Really made an impact in our business. And I remember going to him and I said, listen, I have to make this work. I want to be home with my family. I want to provide. And he looked at me and I thought he was just going to say, hey, let's work together. And he said, all right, and 2 months you have to come down to Miami. And at that time I told him, I said, my wife who's pregnant, who has celiacs, is eating ramen noodles because we're broke. And it's not possible. And he looked at me and he said, you have to make it work. That was it. There was no wiggle room if you really wanted to make this work. So being broke was probably our hardest thing. I got a ticket. I found a random van filled with Spanish-speaking moms from Market America who took me down. I didn't have money to eat, but if you ever travel with moms, they have 18 coolers of food. That's how I ate. I called a friend that I haven't seen in 5 years. He knew a friend that lived in Miami, and he said, I'll take care of you. And somehow, all of that, that's where I saw the Web Center program. That's where I got the belief. And without that event, without him saying, whatever your excuse is exactly your reason why you have to do that. Remember that, whatever it is, if it's money, if it's time, that's exactly why you have to build this.
When I started, I didn't have any money or any time because I was a college student and I was also working at Pizza Hut as a waitress. So I remember going to the first international convention and I couldn't even afford a hotel room. So I convinced some people to let me sleep on their floor. So I was the 5th person in a 4-person room and slept on the floor at the first international convention. My team members let me sleep on their floor because JR, the Powerline magazine, said, bring 2 people on your left and 2 people on your right. So I brought 2 people, well, they took all the beds, so I ended up on the floor. But, hey, whatever it takes, right? I'd sleep in my car if I had to. But I didn't have a lot of time, so what I had to do was I just had to make a commitment to myself that as little time as I had with everything going on, that I was going to do one result-producing activity every single day before I went to bed without going to bed. I had to do something, whether it's talking about the product, selling a product, talking about the business, showing the business, bringing somebody on board. I had to do something before I went to bed at night, and I made that commitment to myself, and it worked very, very well. So.
Great. Stacy?
My challenges were, first, it would have been time. You know, I was working 3 12-hour day shifts, 2 12-hour night shifts. So thank goodness you can pretty much fit this business in anywhere. Just do it. We're all online, so you can fit it in there. So that helped a lot. And then the other, I'm in an area, Paducah. There's nothing there. There was no UBPs. There wasn't anything. So how was I going to introduce the business to other people? So thank goodness for 3-way calls and taking that first step and going from there, and then having our marketamerica.com and being able to introduce people to the plan, you know, online that way. So that was the biggest.
Well, Jim, my biggest challenge was actually me. I worked in the retirement planning industry. I spent 60 to 80 hours a week in my business. I made 6 figures, and I wasn't sure I'd want to lower myself to this. Well, that's the way I thought of it.
Yep.
You know, it's just the way it was. And I worried constantly of what people thought about what I was doing. Let me invest your money, and by the way, try these vitamins. Yeah. And once I got past the point of I didn't worry about what they thought, and I could make money in many different industries instead of just one, that sold me.
So what got you past that, Charlie?
It was really, do I want to spend the rest of my working life at 80 hours a week? Because granted, I made great money. I didn't spend it. You know, you don't have time. I'd rather, look, I spent my last 18 years coaching my kids in sports at every event they had. You can't put a price on that.
When you ask me what the biggest challenge was, I would say, well, where do I begin? I'm an airline captain. When we started, we signed up in America. We wanted to bring it to Spain. We didn't know if they were going to open it. We just started plans anyway, just believing it would happen. My wife was pregnant. I had a great job. I commuted 10 minutes to work. I was home for lunch. It was great. My wife gave birth 2 months early. Baby was barely 3 pounds. She was in a hospital for 6 weeks. She's a hellraiser now. She's about this size now, so she's fine. They closed the base of my airline. They said it wasn't profitable anymore. They sent me off to work in Italy, which is about 2,000 miles the wrong way. We had leadership challenges in our team. And everything that looked so easy, it all of a sudden became not. And there were so many times that we just wanted to throw in the towel, and a lot of times. And it's just the fact that our belief to actually make something bigger than we were and than we had, it was bigger than the obstacles that were thrown in front of our feet. And I thank God every day that I met her, and she pulled me through, and I pulled her through. And thanks to people like Dennis and JR and Andrew and Lauren and you. You believed in us and you made it work, and we're here today to make it happen. So
That's great. It was great. I got to talk to Martin backstage a little bit, and we were talking about how things were going and obstacles that come with opening a new country, guys. Opening a new country is a process, and it can be difficult. And he said, you know what? We have obstacles, but we get over them every single day, and we just keep moving forward. And I think we all need to have that attitude everywhere, don't you? Vikki, how about you?
Talk about challenge, yes. When I first started, I have many challenges. I started with a company, we have really not too many products, maybe 4. And I started Thermochrome, just started. I have such a jittery, I couldn't even start that product line, supposed to consumable. So I started with maize, being in New York. That's the only thing I can think of to sell to every family. So I had to sell family to family. That was tough. And then my family, I work full-time. I work in Manhattan. And being a single mother of 2, I struggle with time too. So company has, nobody makes money that time. And we have no product, we have no system, I don't know what to do. And I struggle with time, with 2 little ones. I want to make sure that I have food on the table. So that's how to drive me to focus this business. With Rick Hannon was on the side, and Cindy with me. Oh my goodness, that made a huge difference. And with Dave Silva and Maria Silva, we built NMTSs in the local area. We were the pioneer, and with their help, I started learning what is NMTSs. We had nothing, from nothing, and we have something. So you guys are so lucky, have everything here. You are ready to take off with the company. This is the time.
Now, Vikki, too, also when you started, how many materials did we have in Chinese at that time?
Nothing. We have underground Chinese. We are afraid to tell anybody.
You had underground Chinese? And we had 4 products, no Chinese literature.
No Chinese. Finally, I figured out the name for Market America, because being Chinese, Market America is very hard to pronounce. So I had to have a name for Chinese. I figured it out. And then I started translating everything into Chinese. That's how we really started.
That's amazing. Great, thank you.
I think the biggest challenge for me was the time commitment, because I worked a full-time job and I had to make a lot of sacrifices in this business. If you really want to commit, you really want to make become successful and make a lot of money, you need to sacrifice, okay? And for me, I had to cut out, all the drinking, all the partying, all the video games, everything, all the girls. Girls thought I was crazy. I tried to recruit all of them, right? So it's just consistency, Keep it simple and be really consistent. From day one, I started building the business. I just showed the plan 2-3 times a day. I have to work in the morning, right? Like a 9-to-5 job. So I worked every day. It took me 3 hours to drive to work. So I had to wake up 6:30, go to work. By the time I finished work, it was already 7:30. So I only had that time at night to build my business. And I spent all that time every single night, 2 to 3 plans every single night, showing the plan, follow up. And that's what got me here.
My biggest challenge was the fact that I had been in the industry for 10 years, failing miserably, and a lot of the people that I was going to contact about this opportunity, I had already contacted about the other opportunities. So that was challenging. But like Charlie said, my biggest challenge was me, because I had to negate that 10-year experience of not making a lot of money and go through that same process. See, I had been out of the industry for a while when I finally got involved in Market America, and I did not think I'd ever get back in it. I was out for a while. I had thrown the towel in, but the first time I saw this back in 1979, the industry itself, when I was exposed to the network marketing industry, I was excited about the concept of leveraged income. It's just that the opportunities that I was in prior to Market America failed me. At the time, I thought I was the failure, but when I compared those marketing plans to Market America's binary system, I realized they had let me down, and it wasn't me. But I still had to protect this. I had to make sure my mindset was correct, because I get more no's than yeses. I don't know if anyone else is in the same boat or if it's just me. I get a lot more no's than yeses, and that can be a challenge, especially if you have 10 years of failing in the industry. And so that was my biggest challenge. I had to be around people who saw this business like I saw it. I had to be around positive people. I couldn't let the past influence my future, and that was a day-to-day challenge for me.
Great. What was the biggest thing that helped you get over that, Steve?
Honestly, I earned my first $300 check in 30 days, and I was very excited.
Great. Let me ask you guys a question coming back again, Steve, starting with you. Was there ever a time in the business you felt like quitting?
Yes.
Because, we look at you, you're a multi-million-dollar earner, very successful. I know how you built the business. You've done it with a lot of time, but what made you want to quit, and what made you not quit?
It's an interesting story. I was a professional coordinator making $4,500 a month, but the problem was I thought I should be making $4,500 a week. And I called up my sponsor, Elizabeth Weber, and I said, we need to have a chat. And she said, come over. So I went over her house, we sat down, and she said, what's up? And I said, I call this my exit speech. I had prepared my exit speech because I knew she was going to yell at me. But I swore before I walked in she was not going to talk me out of it. And I had this big elaborate speech of why I'm not going to do this anymore. And I was making great money, except I didn't think I was making great money. And so she said, she looked me in the eye and she said, are you done? And I said, yes. She said, get over yourself. And she walked out of the room. So, she has a big house, for those of you who don't know. It took me 15 minutes to find her. And I said, that's your response? She said, you know what the problem is? You got to take the I said, what's the problem? She said, you got to take the focus off yourself. And I said, no, seriously, what's the problem? And she said, I'm serious. You got to focus on somebody on your left, somebody on your right, and just focus hard. Nobody in your organization doubts you. They doubt themselves. But if you focus on two people, one on the left, one on the right, you're going to double and triple your income in the next year. So I left and said, okay, I'm going to do what you said. In 16 months later, I was making $4,500 a week, and I didn't want to quit anymore.
Jimmy, how about you?
I feel like quitting all the time, actually. But the truth is, you know, once you get to a certain place and you want to quit, and then you look back and you see all these people following you, all these people looking up to you, it's like, you know, they're inspired by you. And, you know, it's really about the people. You really got to help the people in your organization make solid money, okay? And they're never going to leave your side. So that's what I want to do. I just want to help people. Really right now, even the money doesn't really motivate me anymore, all right? It's just about helping others succeed. And it's really about the teamwork. And I love my team. They're sitting somewhere over there. You know, shout out to them. But they're amazing. They're amazing, and I wouldn't be here without them. And I just want to help all of them succeed.
Great.
Quitting, yes, many times. Every time I have fight with a company, I want to quit. I call Rick all the time and say, let's find another company. But good thing is, I know life is like a juggle many balls. I'm one of the person, when people press me harder, I jump higher. And it's not glass ball that I'm carrying, it's not a wooden ball, it's not paper ball, I'm the rubber ball. Always jump back, and it's higher. That's important. Keep in your head, we're going to go through so much in life. It's about the attitude. You always bounce back. Here I'm still here. Thank you.
I agree with Vikki. I mean, why wouldn't I agree? She's in $1 Million Club, right? I think, as I mentioned before, I think if you don't, I'm very stubborn, which is usually a good thing, but in this business it's not necessarily a good thing. You can't always be the captain of the ship. You got to go back being the student again. So we're getting there. But I would say the quitting, there's so many times that I think, and I think I can speak for a lot of people here, that if you don't have the feeling you want to throw the business out of the window at some stage sometimes, then you're not growing, you're not overcoming your boundaries, right? So I would say that for me is one of the biggest gifts of this business. You know, every time you want to throw in the towel, you got to say, okay, what's going on here? This is another step towards where we want to go. And I don't think there is any successful entrepreneur who hasn't been up and down and up again and down again and got himself on his feet again and took the next step and got to where he wanted to go. And I just take it as a personal chastise to say, okay, this hurts, but this is probably what we need to do to make it. So we're not looking for easy rides, because otherwise everyone would do it. And we want to feel a bit special about what we do. But yes, there were many times that we wanted to quit, but I think that's only part of the process. So no nuts, no glory. So that's all I got to say.
Well, I was in a people business, and I was looking at this as another people business, and people always make you want to quit. The difference is, if I didn't work, if I decided I didn't want to work for a week before, I didn't make any money. If I don't want to work for a week here, I still make money. But looking back at it, if I would have listened to the wrong people, I would have lost a lot of money. I always feel like it, but you know, you feel like quitting, you just don't.
You just keep going.
You just keep going.
Yes, I felt like quitting a couple of times. The biggest thing for me was I would just get so frustrated because I didn't understand why everybody didn't want to do this. Took me a good 13 months. Susan and Lisa Grogan would say, just love them where they are, just love them where they are. And I was just like, why don't they do it?
But Stacy, hold on. You sponsored 26 people last year, and you're frustrated people didn't want to do it? And I'm making this as a point because there's a lot of you who think you're alone in that. I'm going to guarantee you why she sponsored 26, because she got turned down a lot more than a lot of other people. Am I right?
Yes. Yep.
What kept you going?
Because the other alternative was I was just going to have to keep working, time for money, and I knew that if I kept on, I would find the right people, and I wouldn't have to work so much, and we'd be able to have more time with our family.
Great.
I've only considered quitting one time. And that was, and actually I was already what most people would consider successful in Market America. I was a professional coordinator. I was about 9 months in the business, was doing great, had a lot of momentum going on, which we know that can be overwhelming. And I went to what now is called World Conference in February, and I was still in college, and my book bag was stolen off the cart going to the room. And I lost all my notes. And I was so overwhelmed just from losing everything and basically having to start over and recapture notes from a whole month of college classes, which, anybody that's been to college, that's a lot of information. And but the good thing is I had so much momentum going on in my business that 3 months later I hit director, which is $18,000 a month. So I never considered that ever again.
I'd say it's good you didn't quit.
No.
I never got to the point where I was ever thinking of quitting. I got very discouraged, but I have the philosophy when you believe in something, you see it through, you just never quit. There's just not even an option. But I will say, many of you might have something what's called a negative spouse. I'm assuming. Anyone out there? Just me? All right. Who was my biggest fan and biggest skeptic, and there was times where JR always says, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know that you don't know it. And a lot of what we were doing was doing it wrong, and doing it wrong, and doing it wrong. And then I'd come to convention, I'd get all fired up, go home, and then 2 weeks later, something sidetracks you, and then you keep doing it wrong. And we went through that process literally for years, it seemed. And then one thing changed everything. From that point on, I don't think we're ever, not productive, is she says, do you really want to make this work? And I'm like, yeah, I really do. And she's like, you always say that, and then you kind of just lose interest, and weeks go by, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but we're going to make this work. She goes, you really want to make it work? I'm like, yeah. And I thought she was on board. She goes, I'm going to cancel our distributorship tomorrow if you don't have a solid plan on how we're going to make this work. You have 24 hours. You make it happen, big boy. And so I frantically called Gary Rogers and screamed help. I think I was crying. I needed a hug. And we developed a plan. And then from that point on, isn't it funny that when you start doing it right, it just works? And you realize, man, if I only did that 3 years ago. So I do want to say this. Listen, it's been 9 years for us. I think we messed it up pretty good as anyone could mess it up. If there was an award, we got it. For the first few years, and it doesn't matter how long you were in the business. It really matters when the business gets into you and you start implementing the things that will make it grow.
I have a firm belief that if you haven't cried once or twice while building this business, you haven't done it right yet. So if any of you are out there and maybe you came here this weekend hoping this would be the weekend, and you've had those rough moments, you're looking at a bunch of people. I know these guys personally have gone through so much to be here. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'd like to ask quickly, if I could, one tip to give to everybody as they leave International Convention. What would that be?
My tip is consistency. He said it over here. My mentor, Gary Rogers, I always asked, I said, if there was one thing you could say and you had 1 minute, what would it be? Consistency. If you learn how to do a few things really well, and take the focus off yourself and find how many people you can do that with and duplicate it, not only will you make it to the top, but your team will, and then it never feels like work. Everyone goes, you work so much. I thought you wanted to stop doing that. I said, I don't even realize that we're working.
You're playing.
I would say my tip is to do something for your business every day. Do not take a day off until you're successful.
I would say don't be afraid to share the business. It took me 6 months to sponsor my first person, because I thought I didn't know how to do it. Just do it. Find somebody, follow them, and do what they're doing. Don't be afraid to share.
Our business is very simple. I think it's the simplest thing you'll ever do, as long as you do income-producing activities daily. My other business, if I decide to take time off, no money. Same thing here. If you're not putting a half hour, 4 hours in a day, your business is closed.
My wife told me a very nice phrase, and she said, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. So I would say believe in yourself, but she taught me that. Thank you.
You want money and time, or have money, have no time, or have money, have time, or you have no time, have money. So that's what we are all about. It's about the no quit. You never quit. As Winston Churchill says, never quit.
Buy and sell tickets. For me, this is how I got my business started. Without that one ticket that Donald Chi sold me, I wouldn't be here today, okay? And this is how we learn to duplicate in our organization through the power of the events. And this conference, for the next World Conference, I set a goal for myself. I want to get to the next pin level. I want to hit national. So I bought 10 tickets to the World Conference in Miami. So I hope you guys all get your tickets, and I'll see you guys all in Miami. See you at the top.
I'm going to give you one tip. It's talk to one person every single day about the unfranchised business. You can talk to, if I was talking to Jim on Sunday and he had an interest and I talked to him the next day about the business, that counts as my talk to for Monday. If he's still interested and I met with him on Tuesday, that counts as my talk to for Tuesday. If you just talk to one person a day, 365 days a year about the business opportunity, you will sponsor 6 new people in that 300, that's a minimum. 6. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but those of you with large organizations, imagine everybody in your group or half your group sponsoring 6 this year. But here's the key. To keep this where it needs to be, you have to do something every single day. John Maxwell wrote a book, Success One Day at a Time. Just do a little teeny bit every day. It keeps this where it needs to be. If the person says no to me, is not interested in the opportunity, I can put them on the products. If they're not interested in the products, I can sell them a ticket to the next event. I'm always selling events and merchandise to people who aren't interested in the opportunity. This is my 20th international convention in a row. And I can't imagine what my business or my life would be like if I missed an event like this. So if you guys are sitting here maybe for the first time, you need to get your tickets for World Conference in February. You can't miss major events. There's too much going on. The company is moving so quickly that we can't afford to miss an event. So I build my business 6 months at a time. Convention to World Conference to convention. 6-month builds in between those major events. I'm big on education, but I'm also big on small activity. And I found talking to one person every single day about the opportunity is important. It keeps your head in the game.
Great. All right, guys, this is your panel. They did a great job, didn't they? Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the evening. We'll see some of you at the gala, and we'll see a bunch of you tomorrow.